Welcome to the award-winning Tough Girl podcast, now celebrating 10 years. I'm Sarah Williams, and every week I bring you stories from women in the world of adventure and physical challenge. Get inspired, stay motivated, and be part of a movement that's increasing the visibility of female role models, especially in relation to adventure and endurance. New episodes every Tuesday at 7 a.m. UK time. Support the mission at patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast and dive deeper at toughgirlchallenges.com.
I'm Vedangi Kulkarni. I'm from India, but I'm currently based in Inverness, Scotland. I think a little introduction would be I'm an endurance athlete. I am an adventurer. I am a writer and a storyteller. I think that'd be it. I also have a business called The Adventure Shed, through which I plan, manage, and lead adventures and expeditions. That business thing is currently a little bit on the back foot because I'm doing all the other things so much more than the business side of things. But it's all sort of, work in progress. But yeah, that's me. I just came back from my second ride around the world, and yeah, it was fantastic. Didn't quite achieve what I wanted, but it was fantastic anyway.
We've chatted to you twice before. So we first spoke on September 22nd, 2020, where we initially, we learned more about your early years, growing up, being encouraged by your father, playing like the role that school played, like different friends you were, deciding at 17 to cycle across the Himalayan Passive, how it sort of changed your perspective. We talked all about sort of that aspect of it. And then we've also, and obviously becoming the youngest woman to cycle around the world on bicycle.
Yes, we did talk about that.
And then we had another conversation on the Tough Girl Podcast Extra on October 27th, 2022, where you shared more about sort of moving into the mountain biking space and crossing Svalbard as well. So both episodes, highly recommend people to go back and to listen to. Absolutely epic. But what we're going to be focusing on in this episode is what you've basically been up to over the past couple of years, which is the second ride around the world. So I just love to know, when did you start thinking again, ooh, I want to get on my bike, I want to cycle around the world? When did you start thinking about the challenge?
That thought had actually never left me. So when I first finished that ride, I had already thought that, okay, this is going to have to happen again because we didn't quite achieve what we wanted to. But then in 2023, I went back to the Indian Himalayas and I did this ride from Manali to Leh. I did it as a record attempt and I wanted to be the fastest woman to do it, but I also wanted to do it the hard way. So these days, it's a point-to-point record attempt, right? So it's a point-to-point record from the foothill of the Indian Himalayas to the heart of the Indian Himalayas. But the thing is, this can be done the other way as well. But then also there is a tunnel these days where you can miss out a whole mountain pass, and it's 2,500 or 2,000 meters of less elevation gain from what I understand. Anyway, that's all details. But I was that was my first expedition, right? In the Indian Himalayas, cycling across them. That was my first ever thing. And so I was if I go back to that and do it as a record attempt, because I know that that's a thing now, it'd be cool to see where I am at. If I can work with a team, if I can prepare for something in a month in, I guess, at high altitude, if I can prepare myself well and then perform when it matters. And I had some of the closest people in the crew, and yeah, that was all the thing. And basically, I got the record at the time. I did it the hard way. I did it from the foothills. I did the first big pass. And I remember I just felt strong for most of it. And when I say I felt strong, I don't mean that I was fast or my body felt good. I mean more I was struggling, but I didn't want to quit. When I say I feel strong, that's what I mean, that I was struggling. Things hurt here and there, but I didn't want to quit because I knew I had prepared for it, and I knew it was possible for me. I was sleepy, but I was able to ride, is also another way I would say. So I did this record. I got to Leh, and I had broken it by 3 and a bit hours, I think. And I rolled in, and I remember thinking, I think I'm ready. I think I I've shown myself that, I got that much needed win after all the COVID years, after all the years of only half doing things, after so many like failures here, there, and everywhere. I had come back and I'd found a win. I'd got my win. And I know it like in the grand scheme of things, it was only like a 470-kilometer ride. I could have done it so much faster. There's all these other factors, but I had got my win. And that was like a sign for me to sort of allow myself to go back and achieve the bigger thing. So that was sort of when it all kicked off. Like, it was, I think, what was it? June 2023? And yeah, then I sort of started to actually be vocal about it a little bit and be like, okay, all right, like 2024, this is what I want to do. This is going to be my big goal for the year. And yeah, that's sort of how all of it kicked off for me for the second round the world.
I like that because actually, when you talk about the win, what I'm hearing is confidence. It's like, yeah, actually, do you know what? I can do this, and actually, do you know, I'm gonna do this. But around the but, the big but around the world, it is something you've done before. You've got experiences of riding these big distances. Doing the hard work. The mental side, the physical side, the emotional side, the planning, the preparation. Like, it's such a big challenge. And obviously, you wanted to go after the record. Talk us through just even getting the sponsorship, the bike, getting the logistics in place to even start the challenge. Because how much would it even cost you to do that? Do you know?
It was going to cost me around 20 grand. And the sponsorship thing, actually, it was better this time than any other expedition I've ever done before, which is also why when it didn't go to plan, I was so devastated because at this point, it wasn't just like everything I had put into it. It was everyone else who had trusted so much so that like, put that trust in me. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So the way this worked for me sponsorship wise this time was that I was already working with a bike brand, luckily, Canyon Bikes. I love riding those bikes and I've worked with them for a very long time now. And so it's not just out of me loving the bikes, but also I have that trust from the other side as well that, there will be bikes that I can ride that, it can be custom built, like the parts that can go on it will be the ones that will be easy for me to use for my round the world ride. I got a chance to sort of try the bike that I was going to ride before I made that decision, spoke to some experts from like, their team as well, so that I could really, really, really make that decision properly on what bike I wanted to ride around the world on. Because I had chosen a completely different bike for myself to do this ride on. And then their team, like when I spoke to them, they told me that actually we think this performance racing, like gravel bike, would be great for you. And because you can spec it like a road bike and then you can ride it like a road bike, but it's comfortable like a gravel bike. I'm so glad that discussion took place because I ended up riding that bike around the world. It was a Canyon Grail SLX 8 version with tram access and everything. So electronic gears, and I absolutely loved it. Never failed me. Yeah, and then they also helped financially. And then also there were then other brands. So there were some brands that I asked Canyon to introduce me to, but then one of my biggest sponsors, actually my biggest sponsors for this ride, were Rab, because was it last year or the year before? I had tried out some of their gear and I was asked to be an ambassador. And then I think we sort of, yeah, in 2023, I was an ambassador for them. And then in 2024, we sort of, yeah, took it up a notch. And I asked if they wanted to be my headline sponsors, and they were more than keen for that. So that happened. And then Schwalbe came on board for tires, which was also incredible because that was actually a bit of a surprise for me because I pitched and I hadn't heard back for a while. And then they got back to me with an offer and I absolutely couldn't believe it because tires are expensive. And I've used, again, I think since like 2018, the only tires I've ever used have been shoulder. So again, some of the brands that I respected so much and had used for such a long time came on board, not just with the product, but with the financial support. And that meant the world to me. Also, Tailfin. Tailfin custom built most of my setup. And I cannot explain. That team has done so much for me. So I had these aero bars, which were very specific to the bike that I was using. They are from Canyon, and those aero bars are like to be used with their time trial bikes and everything, which they had set up for the gravel bike because that gravel bike can be used with those. But then all of the normal bags for aero bars won't work with those because there's only one thing in the middle rather than the two bits that you hold on to. And so Tailfin custom built like a bag for that. And then I had just sort of made an offhand comment that, oh, wouldn't it be nice to not just have a bike computer, but also something that I can have like a phone mount on? And then I remember just saying that, oh yeah, like I would love having my phone in front of me, like in case to do all the logistics on the go and things like that, and to change the music easily without having to shove it out of the bag and things. And it was just like a random comment that I had made. And then they ended up building this 3D printed mount, which went on top of this aero bar where I could have my bike computer mount and my phone mount. And then there was like this another 3D printed bit for my light mount where I'd use exposure lights. Again, they got on board as sponsors. So Tailfin put in all this effort to make all these custom built like bags and things for me with all these mounts which would help me keep safe. It took a village when it came to getting the financial support. There was actually only one Indian sponsor that I got. And believe me when I say this, the most effort I put in terms of sponsorship was to try and get some businesses and companies from India to get involved with this. And I really, yeah, me and my family, we really, really tried to get that support in India. In the end, I only got one sort of a bank, an Indian bank, to pitch in, I guess, yeah, 5 grand towards this, which is a huge help. Don't get me wrong, but I was sort of expecting so much more from in terms of support from the country that I come from, I guess, because of the effort that I put in. And you have this thing in your head that the amount of support you get will be sort of directly proportional to like how much effort you put in into getting it. And in terms of how much effort I'd put in to get some support from any of the Indian brands, it sort of didn't work out. But then, yeah, this one bank that supported me went all in. It was amazing. Like that was the most they could help with, and that they did, and very quickly in a very short space of time. So yeah, I couldn't be happier about it. It was incredible. But that came through a few days before I was meant to leave to get to the start line of my ride, which I cannot even believe that. Like it was all so quick. So yeah, like that's sort of how it all came together in terms of the financial support for the ride. Oh, also, DT Swiss supported me with wheels. And again, they gave me some of the wheels that they hadn't launched yet at the time, which was amazing. They are, again, gravel wheels, and they gave all the specific instructions of what's the best spec to use them with, I guess. But yeah, that was all really fantastic. Training wise, I was working with John E3 coaching. And then I also worked with a friend who actually got me into all things long distance riding. So yeah, training wise, I was also quite lucky, I guess. But yeah, I guess preparation, there was so much there. I invested in an indoor trainer, which I came to hate towards the end because of how much effort it took to do anything indoors. I think in winter, obviously, it's great when you have an indoor trainer, but then over the summer months, over like, yeah, when the temperature is really peak and you can ride outside and have a lot of fun outside, being on an indoor trainer just kills you. It's like, okay, 3 hours on this, and it's so much more intense than anything else. I was also doing strength and conditioning a lot, so a lot of other things. But the training for this ride, for a change, I had an actual training plan, so I wasn't going freestyle. And I did follow it, I sort of, I guess, yeah, I did put in the best effort that I could with it. But as you know, like with preparation, for me, especially, my biggest prep was when it came to applying for the visas and planning the route with my Indian passport. Again, visas were an absolute nightmare. And even with my best preparation towards it, in the end, it was visas that got me. And there were other setbacks, don't get me wrong, but the visa issues definitely got me good once again. So, yeah, that was kind of the preparation side of things, because once your passport has been submitted to a country's embassy, you don't get it back for like a month unless you pay an extortionate amount. So you don't get it back for a month, and then you have to apply for the next one. And then, there's a time scale, like you can't apply for certain visas sooner than, I guess, yeah. There's like some sort of thing, like there are certain visas you can only apply for when you have 90 days to the date of entry. So it's things like that that also affected when I was applying for the visa I needed. And yeah, there was a lot of that. But in the end, we got to the start line, which I still believe is the hardest thing of any challenge, just getting to the start line, because there's so much of a mental thing behind it. Like, it's not just the logistical things, it's also, hang on a second, do I really stand a chance at it? Like, is my preparation enough? Am I strong enough to do this? Am I really going to be able to handle this? Will I run out of money? Like, there was so much when it came for me to bring myself, to the start line. So yeah, the day that I actually started my ride was probably the easiest day of the whole ride.
Do you know what it is? It's just not a level playing field at all, because you've got amazing sponsors, you've got the experience of cycling around the world previously, you've committed to the training, showing up. You are mentally tough enough. You've got all of the attributes because you are an endurance athlete, an adventurer. You have all of these skills. But then it's just visas and passports, because you've got an Indian passport. Because I'm just thinking, if you're British, if you've got a British passport and American passport, I don't think you've got to do any of this stuff. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
more
you
like
don't, but
you
then
just rock up. Like, hi,
yeah, you say that, but the mental thing behind it also, basically, for me, another thing was I knew that I was racing against the legend of women's ultra cycling. Lael Wilcox was attempting the same record when I was. And I think, yeah, like, yes, the passport situation doesn't make it a level playing field, but in this situation, mindset as well as that pure strength, I guess, in some aspects did come in play. And I think, yeah, that was definitely a thing, because for me, it was like, who do I think I am? Like, what the fuck? Like, why am I, why do I think I can do this? Why do I think I can compete here? I don't stand a chance. And every time, I think that did become a blocker to me at one point. And I have to be honest here, like, I would like to think I've trained as hard as I could and everything, but performance does play a role just as much as the other things do. And sometimes you at your strongest is still not strong enough. And that's okay, because you're still the strongest you have ever been. So I think that did play a part. And it took me a long time to get over that while I was doing my ride. But again, the visa thing, yes, it does. Someone actually asked me this question recently. I was delivering a talk and someone asked me, do you think someone from a developing nation ever stands a chance at breaking the round the world record? Someone holding a weaker passport. And I was sort of like, yes, you do, but you don't have any room for error. Things have to go to plan, because you will get detained at borders like I did. You will get questioned a million more times. You will sort of have a lot of thinking to do before you turn up at any borders, because you don't know what they're going to ask. You're always like, have I got my outbound ticket? Have I got my insurance? Do I have to show them that I've got enough money in my bank account? And also, it took me a lot more money to do this because of my passport, because of the trips that I had to do to London to get the visas, for example. Every time I went there, I had to stay there because I live on the other end of the country. But also, visas cost money, and you have to show that accommodation bookings, even if they're dummy bookings, flight bookings, and the outbound tickets sometimes. Like, it happened with me 3 times now that I had got the right tickets so that I could get the refunds in case I was to cancel them, because things don't go to plan. You're not going to take the exact flight that you had booked for yourself and things like that. And yeah, like it did take a lot more money. So in all those respects, yes, it wasn't a level playing field. But I would say that in my case, a very big factor was that there was someone much stronger than me attempting this. And I think the more I talk about it, the more I take pride in this, that okay, I've got a long way to go, but it's okay because we still did it, still got to the finish line, and yeah.
You're in the arena. You're
Mm.
competing. Like, and also,
I
you know,
just wish
I
I was
love.
stronger, like, but it will happen. Like, I'm 26, I've got a long way to go.
It's like two women both cycling around the world, going for the record. Is absolutely
Honestly,
epic.
yeah. And I had like such great sort of support in Lael, because we spoke to each other before we left, and we were actually chatting about how incredibly cool it is that this is our work for the next few months, riding your bike in all these cool places all day, and that's all you're doing, and that's your work. And yeah, like anytime I messaged her, she was like really nice to me, and everything like that her and Rue posted from the road was so inspiring to me. Just knowing that someone else was out there doing this was so wild, and it was amazing. So yeah, super cool.
No, it's great to see. And I think it also happened with like I think I can't remember what year it was, a couple of years ago. It's like the same with like polar expeditions. There was like 4 or 5 women out there all going for like different records. And you were just like, yeah, this is what I want to see. Like, yes, okay, it's competition, and yes, you want to get the record, but it's so much more than that. It's just so exciting that there's, two women are being sponsored to chase their dreams. And, literally, like you said, it's your job to go and what a job. Like,
Absolutely. Oh, it was amazing. Honestly, the best few months were when I was out there doing this. And even when I knew that I wasn't going to get the record, there was something about still trying, still keeping on going. I was still talking about it. And I think because I have a bit more profile than I did when I was 19 and I did it, I think I had a good story to tell here. I was able to talk really openly about, oh yeah, it's a little bit embarrassing that I'm not doing well. It's really embarrassing like that my strongest isn't strong enough. It's really embarrassing that I'm having all these like setbacks and failures, and yet it's so cool that I'm able to still keep on going. I still get to ride across some incredible places, meet all these amazing people, and then also I had the most incredible experience when it came to the people I came across, because I had this thing, right? At gas stations and things, you just talk with random people. And then sometimes they invite you to stay with them. Sometimes they give you the most random advice. Sometimes they buy you breakfast or whatever. And there were some nicest people out there. And I really enjoyed the part where I got to interact with others. And also when so I had like a tracker and everything, and then I had some people join me on some sections, and it was so cool that every now and again there would be someone just riding next to me and going, "Are you Vedangi? Oh, I saw that you're approaching from your tracker. Like, you mind if I join you for a few miles?" And when the first person joined that for me, I was like, holy shit, someone took time out of their lives to come ride with me. That's never happened before. And, not in this context. And because I was so aware that I have a profile where I can tell people stories and there are enough people who want to hear those stories. But I didn't actually think that there were people out there who cared enough to join. And when that happened, I was baffled and I was so happy. I was like, fuck yeah, this is cool. This is why I ride bikes.
Did you ride the same route as you rode the first time you did it, or did you have a different route?
So my route was slightly different this time around because I didn't get my Canadian visa because of bad relations between Canada and India at the time. So I had to be a little bit more creative because last time Canada was the country where I got my max sort of distance, and that wasn't going to be possible this time. So the way I sort of worked around that was that I looked at which countries I can go to with a UK residency without needing a physical stamped visa. And then I saw that Peru was one of those countries. That was part of my route. Also in New Zealand, I could start from South Island because last time I'd only done the North Island. Also Mongolia, I could, because Mongolia was like, I could go there. The visa procedure wasn't very hard. And I knew the Indian ambassador in Mongolia who also helped with any letters I needed. So then I decided to do a longer route in Mongolia as well. And yeah, so basically, my route was I started on the east coast of India. Now, there's a reason why I decided to start so far up on the east coast in India is because July is monsoon. And on the east coast, monsoon hits really, really hard. So then I was like, I can handle anything for like, I don't know, 500, 600 kilometers. That's not a lot of distance. I can handle that. So then I decided to start a little bit further up on the east coast, rode to Kolkata, flew from there to Mongolia, cycled all the way across Mongolia. That was when my first setback happened, actually. On my way to Mongolia, I lost like 48 hours because I got offloaded from a flight. And then I missed all the other flights which followed. When I finally got to Mongolia, the one flight that I'd booked to go to the westernmost airport, I couldn't get it because, again, these things get booked up months in advance. So my plan was really like meticulous up to there. And obviously it fell through quite quickly there. And so I had to take a flight to the second westernmost airport and then take a taxi where I needed to go and then start from there. And it was all, the way I describe that bit is an absolute mind fuck. That's the one way. Apologies for my language. But anyway, rode across Mongolia, went to Australia, Perth to Sydney instead of Brisbane. Last time I went all the way to Brisbane. This time I was a little bit sick of the magpies because Australian spring is the season when the magpies come get you. They swoop at you. It's horrible. I love Australia, but that one bit about Australia and New Zealand really messed with my head, the magpies. And honestly, I'm not just like throwing shade at a little bird. That little bird will swoop on you. It nipped at my ear. It was bleeding. It tried to go for my eyes, but I had glasses on. So my glasses were like so scratched up by the end. And when you're on the road for like 14 hours a day, you are always in one or the other magpie's territory. So I got swooped a lot. So that was horrible. So then I was like, I'm just going to go to Sydney. Another reason why I only went till Sydney in Australia was because I wanted to celebrate my 26th birthday in Queenstown because I have a friend that lives there and he has other very cool friends. So I was like, oh, I want to meet cool people on my birthday. And just as well because it was snowy in the area surrounding Queenstown when I got there. And yeah, if we've learned anything from the previous Tough Girl podcast I did, I love snow. So yeah, went to Queenstown from there, rode across South Island, North Island. So then from Auckland, I flew to Peru because in Peru, I didn't need a stamped visa. I just needed an e-visa. That was also where I had my first issues with borders because I had to go from Chile and then I got detained at the border there. And then I got into a little bit trouble on the Peruvian border as well. But it was fine. It was fine. Like, it's like a couple hours here and there. It's fine. It's just a little bit, when there's like police watching over and shit, it's a little bit scary. And when you're like, I don't know anyone here, or like, I don't want to get in trouble in South America. It was more that. And I was sort of like, I think I'll be okay. But yeah, the border situation was a bit annoying. But then in Peru, I went from Trujillo on the coast. The plan was to go all the way down the coast and then into the Andes and finish at Lake Titicaca. But after one day of riding like 200 odd kilometers along the coast, I was like, nope, that's me done on the coast because there was headwind and it didn't smell very good. And I was like, screw this. I want to go in the mountains. And so ended up basically from the West Coast, I climbed up over into the Andes and ended up riding the rest of the way to Lake Titicaca through the Andes, sometimes taking very sketchy off roads. It was so cool. I loved it because I got to see Pastori Glacier along the way, which was not part of the plan. I was just like riding along the road, minding my own business. And then suddenly I looked that there was a sign to Pastori Glacier. And I was like, I've got enough daylight. I've got time. I don't mind going to 5,000 meters today. And just, yeah, ended up taking the turn off and doing that little off-road section in the middle just so I get to see a glacier. It was super cool. Like it was very cold and it got really snowy. Anyway, finished at Lake Titicaca, flew to Portugal. So Portugal, Spain, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, no Denmark this time, Sweden and Finland. Went from Finland to Oman and rode from Muscat to Salalah in Oman. Also, one of the best bits of riding I've ever got an opportunity to do. What a country. Such respectful drivers. I was stoked to be in Oman. Yes, it got to me at some point where I was riding in the middle of a desert and it was a little bit of a holy shit, like, am I ever going to see anything other than sand in my entire life? It got a little bit endless there and it got to me a little bit, but the Oman section was incredible. Also, I was seeing my parents after a very long time. So that was also super nice that they were there along with me on this journey. After Oman, went to India, but that's where we had a little bit of a trouble because just at the right time, well, I don't know what I was looking for in my passport, but I found that if I didn't fly to the UK, I would get in a bit of trouble because on the visa that I'm on, I'm not allowed to be out of the country for more than a certain period of time in one go. And I was 2 days off that limit or one day off that limit. I think it was like tomorrow that limit ends and today I find out, that sort of thing. Anyway, I found that out at like very late in the night, ended up booking the ticket right away. The problem was that it was Christmas Eve and I had to fly back, land at Christmas Eve. And there is something about not finishing what you've started, coming back to a place that you connect with as home, and you just feel guilty. You feel incomplete. I felt awful. And I was like, there was no celebration, no reception, no nothing. It was like I just landed at this airport and I felt extremely lonely, extremely like I was just crying a lot because I was like, I shouldn't be here. I should be finishing my ride. But then also, just so I didn't piss off the home office, I stayed for slightly longer. And, I stayed for two months. In that time, I did some sort of freelance work so that I can actually afford to do the next leg of my ride, which was only 4,500 kilometers. So it wasn't like I had a long way to go. I just had to ride across India. That was it. And then I'd be done. Anyway, in March, I went to start my ride across India. I also rode across my fourth desert of the Round the World ride as a part of it. It's a desert in like the westernmost bit of India. And also one of my favorite parts in India. It was in Gujarat. And yeah, rode all the way to the southernmost point in India and then worked my way up the east coast to finish where I started. But that was at the beginning of summer. So March is I think I started sometime in the early March. And that time of the year is when the temperatures start going up and up and up. There was the heat wave, and I couldn't believe that for, I think, the second or third time on this whole ride, I was getting heat exhaustion. Like it was absolutely nuts because I just thought that once it's happened to me, like, how altitude sickness, like you kind of wrongly assume that you'll get it once and never again. Quite like chicken pox. That's not quite how either of these things work. That's not how altitude sickness would work. But also that's not how heat exhaustion works because I hadn't gotten any better at dealing with it. And then I'd gone from Scottish winter to Indian summer, which absolutely messed with me because when I left, it was like 4 degrees here. And then when I started the ride, it was like 40 degrees. I was not okay. I was absolutely not okay. I was throwing up. I couldn't keep food down. I I literally like every time I rode my bike, it felt like the sun was like burning through my skin and like burning things inside of me. It was horrible. But then I found ways to get through it. Like, there were times when I was only riding through the night. So I was just like riding all night on busy roads, which was actually quite nice because I was like, it's at least not hot. But yeah, heat and humidity got me good in India, but we got it done. So I finished my ride on the east coast of India.
How was completing the ride? What did that feel like for you?
I think the way I would describe that is I felt satisfied that I was finally done because I'm not kidding. Yes, it was like great coming back to Scotland in being here for January and February. It was great seeing friends. It was great like spending all the time with my partner, going all on the winter hike, spending time in snow. And it was all great, but I was not happy because I hadn't finished what I've started, and that means so much to me. So when I got through to the finish line, you know, I was crawling, whatever. I got through to the finish line. I was satisfied. I was like, this was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And I got through it. And I'm never allowed to doubt myself ever again because this was fucking challenging and we managed. So yeah, whatever comes next, we are going to be strong enough to handle that. But we're here at the end.
Do you suffer from adventure blues? Like, did you,
Gosh, yeah.
yeah, how did you handle that? Or what did you do to overcome or push
Oh,
through?
well, I saw a lot of friends, and then me and my partner went on so many very cool mountain bike rides. And yeah, like we were just like out and about all the time, which was fantastic. And I think, yeah, being outside so much and spending all the time with my partner, that was amazing because see, now I had done what I planned to do. So I was riding guilt free, I would say. I was doing all the fun things without anything hanging over my head that shit, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing something else and things like that. And so I was just happier. And I think by spending so much time outside and by seeing friends and by like just planning for the next thing. So I signed up for my next race. I came up with I know already what my next sort of record attempt, expedition, whatever is going to be. And because I determined all of those other things are going to be, I sort of, yeah, dealt with it by preparing for that. But also, I came back and I have this, I've been feeling this sort of pull towards getting even, like, I want to get strong. I want to ride well. And, you know, I want to push okay, this is my strongest, but it's not strong enough to be fast enough, but I'm getting stronger. So I want to push that limit further and further. Like, because this won't be the last time I attempt something big. And yeah, I want to push my limit a little bit further. So I've been sort of working towards that and spending a lot of time doing fun things outside because, hey, it's Scotland. It's beautiful up here. So yeah, it's a great way of dealing with adventure blues. You know what, Sarah? One thing I've had actually is I've been beating myself up about like not doing enough or not having done enough quite a bit, even though I'm just back because I'm not somewhere different every single day because I'm not on the road anymore. There's this part of me which is like, holy shit, like you're in one place, you're not doing enough. And that is something that I'm sort of, yeah, struggling with a little bit every now and again, where I have to pull myself and go like, it's okay not to do something all the time. It's okay to be in the preparation phase. Yeah, it's fine.
I sort of understand that because I think for me, it was like after the COVID years when like, and I still done adventures because I was in February 2020, I'd walked the overland track and then back in the UK. So I'd already done like, a couple of adventures. And then I think the following year or that in August, I'd done some like UK walks and stuff. But I still had this sense of this feeling that like you said, like I'm not doing enough. Like I'm getting older. Time is passing by and it's
Yeah.
getting
Also, who am I if I'm not doing the big thing? You
yeah.
know?
And I think you're slightly younger than me, but I think it was also like I kept having these birthdays and it kept getting quicker and
Oh
quicker.
God, yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God, it's going to be in like 17 years or 16 years, I'm going to be 60 years old. And even if I just do one big challenge a year, that is 16 adventures, 16
Mm.
challenges. And like, probably same as you. On my phone, I've got a notes app. And every time I like discuss, like, even talking to you now, I'm like, God, cycling around the world would just be amazing. Like, what a great thing not for me, not to go and get any record, but just to go and cycle through all these incredible countries. Like you cycled across Mongolia, you cycled through Peru and like Australia and actually like South Island of New Zealand. I mean, I was about to say, forget about the North Island, but the South Island is so
South Island is
beautiful.
fantastic. It's like a whole different experience.
But you start thinking, well,
Hmm.
16 adventures, 16 challenges. And then obviously you always think that you're going to be healthy and strong and fit enough to do it. But as you
And
get
yeah, that's not guaranteed. Exactly.
it's not guaranteed. And I also notice in myself, like I think like perimenopause, like a few little niggles here and there. I can't quite train as hard or as I used to. I don't recover quite as well. I definitely need to do like more stretching. And this is not me being negative at all, but it's also that you've got to have a sense of like realism. Like and you're obviously, I'm fighting against it. I'm doing all my heavy lifting, getting my creatine in, having my protein and everything. But there is that element of realism. And actually, I do understand that not doing enough. And also, you've got this one precious life. You've got to get out there and live it. But the balance to that is with this one precious life, you've got to be able to fund your life. You've got to be able to live
Yes.
your life and also daily admin because you're trying to earn money. You've got to publish. You've got to do social media. You've got to edit your videos. These companies sponsor you, and it's not just out of the goodness of their heart. They
It's
expect
business. It's
they,
work.
they expect
Yeah.
stuff from you, and it's not. It can be very, very draining and I think it can be hard. Maybe other people get the balance better, but I think trying to balance everything that you've got going on. So how can people connect with you, reach out to you? Where are you most active on social media? Where should they go?
My main Instagram thing is at this is Vedangi. I have kickstarted my YouTube again. So yeah, it's just my name on YouTube. And yeah, I'm also on Facebook. Basically, I'm on a lot of social media. Also, I have been regularly doing my Substack, and my Substack is called The Adventure Shed. And again, I've been like, oh, it's called The Adventure Shed, so I have to make it a certain way and things. But actually, it's nothing to do with my business, The Adventure Shed. It's actually stories and insights from what I do and yeah, stuff like that.
Vedangi, honestly, just incredible to catch up with you. But I'd love for you to have the final words of wisdom and advice, especially for the women who want to look beyond the current barriers that they can see in their life. And they want to, push on through, take the first step. It may not be cycling around the world for the second, for the second time or for the first time, but it is something that is going to challenge them, take them outside their comfort zone. What would be the words of advice that you would like to pass on? And you can take that in any direction you would like. Just please don't say, just do it.
I think from my recent experience, I would say embracing failure and not letting it dim your light is super important because it's not always going to go to plan. And you're not any less impressive of a person for trying if it if something you're trying doesn't go to plan. So whatever you're doing, whether it's a record, whether it's an adventure that you care about, whether it's like a race, whatever it is, it's okay for it to not go to plan. Try your best and be motivated to try your best, but whatever you're undertaking isn't any less impressive just because it didn't go right if it wasn't to go right. But also have a notes folder or something in your phone where, like, two folders, one where you're writing every time you felt something good about yourself, write something about it. And every time you felt shit about yourself, write something about it, because the whole like journaling process through everything that I've been going through in my head has helped me massively. And every time I'm in one of those lows, just looking at some of the nice things that I've felt about myself has helped me with my self-esteem massively. So yeah, don't be scared to be shit. You're not gonna be, most probably, but yeah, embrace it.
I love that. And a really practical piece of advice, especially with the notes folder as well. When you feel good about yourself and when you don't feel as good about yourself, journal, document. I always think it's just powerful getting it out of your head, getting it, whether it's onto a notes app, write it down into a journal. It just helps to process thoughts. It doesn't even have to be coherent thoughts. It can just be bullet points of things that have that have worked well. Vedangi,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming back on the Tough Girl Podcast Extra. It's always incredible to catch up with you, to hear what you've been up to. Massive congratulations on your second around the world cycle ride. You are absolutely phenomenal and such an inspiration. And thank you for continuing to follow your passions. And I can't wait to follow along with all the rest of your adventures and challenges.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thanks for having me. I have loved it. I always love chatting to you. So thank you very much.
Hey, tribe. How are you doing? Hope you're all keeping super well. Isn't it amazing to get Vedangi back on the Tough Girl Podcast Extra? So this is the third time that Vedangi has been on to share more about her story, her adventures, her challenges. The second time she's been on to talk about cycling around the world. And do you know what really blows my mind still is Vedangi she's 26 years old. And I just keep thinking she's already accomplished so much. And yet she hasn't even scratched the surface of what she can accomplish in the future. And I think that's one of the things that I love about the Tough Girl Podcast and the fact that we've been going for 10 years is it's not only sharing and documenting women's adventures and stories, but also by having the Tough Girl Podcast Extra, it's following up on these women and their journeys and see how they progress, because you can now go back and listen to Vedangi after she first cycled around the world. What was her mindset like then? How did she plan? How did she prepare? How has she grown as a person? Like, one of the things that I like to do sometimes is listen to the episodes like back to back. So you can listen to Vedangi's first episode, her second episode, and then her third episode, just to see the growth and the development. And that's something that I want to continue doing with the podcast. I expect to be going for another 10 years at least. And with that, to speak to Vedangi again in 18 months, in 24 months, to keep documenting her life as an adventurer and taking on these awesome challenges. So everything that we have talked about today will be available in the show notes at toughgirlchallenges.com. So please do go and visit the website. If you are interested in cycling, we do have a dedicated resources page linked into cyclists. And you can also use the search function, especially if you're interested in cycling around the world. I've spoken to a lot. I've spoken to the first woman, the fastest woman. I've spoken to Lael Wilcox, who's just announced her record attempt for next year in 2026 to go after breaking the men's record. Like, I am excited to watch that. We've spoken with Dr. Sarah Ruggins. That episode came out on the 5th of August, who broke the men's record. She's now the outright record holder from cycling from John O'Groats to Land End and back again. Absolutely amazing. But we've spoken to a lot of women who've cycled across continents, which is amazing, or cycled the length of countries, New Zealand, South America, across America, Europe, Africa, Asia. And what I love about all of these women's stories is there's different advice and tips available for you. So it's not about comparison. It's not about thinking, well, Sarah, I'm never going to cycle around the world. I get it. But actually, what could you do? Could you, if you're just at the start of your journey, do you need to join a cycle proficiency? Is there a cycle proficiency program close to you? Is there a spin bike at the gym? Can you hop on a stationary bike at the gym? And even if you're thinking, well, I'm not fit at the moment, understand that as well. Hop on the bike anyway. Do a minute. The following day, go back, do 2 minutes. The next day, do 3 minutes. Do that for a week. You'll soon be up to 7 minutes. And then soon you'll be cycling for 10 minutes. Stick at that for a while, 10 minutes per day. Soon you'll build that up to 15 minutes per day. And honestly, before you know it, you'll be cycling 20 minutes per day. And then that's when you start building. Fitness just doesn't happen overnight. It's something that you do have to work at. You do have to commit to it. Listen to the Tough Girl podcast while you're on a bike. Take a selfie of you while you're on the bike, not when you're riding down a main road. No selfies on main roads, please. Thank you very much. But if you're inside the gym on a stationary bike, just cycling, listening to the podcast, send me a selfie, tag me in it at Tough Girl Challenges. That would be absolutely amazing. But yeah, loads of incredible women sharing their stories on the Tough Girl podcast. As you probably know, as you're probably sick of hearing, there's over 800 episodes of the Tough Girl podcast, because the Tough Girl podcast is this year we're celebrating its 10th year anniversary. It's quite weird because I keep thinking, oh, that we're not going to be having any new listeners now. But you could be a brand new listener to to the Tough Girl podcast. It could be the first episode that you pick to listen to. What an awesome episode to pick as well. But you might not really know anything about me, or you might not really know anything about the Tough Girl podcast. So sometimes I do feel as though I repeat myself a lot. But if you are brand new, thank you so much for tuning in. We are all about increasing the amount of female role models in the media, especially in relation to adventure and physical challenges. I host the Tough Girl podcast, Sarah Williams, but I am supported by incredible patrons who support me financially every single month and annually. With a donation. If you want to get involved in that, then please do check out Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast, and sign up. You can also make a one-off donation via PayPal. I absolutely love that. If you just go to the website, bottom left-hand side, there is a big yellow donate button. It really just helps me to have like a regular source of income coming in to fund the running costs of keeping like all of the podcasts up and running, and website hosting fees and all that jazz. So what is new with me? Where are we? We are now coming to the end of September. I am now in editing mode. I am starting to interview again for new episodes to come out October, November and December. If you've got guests that you would like me to speak to, I do have a long waiting list, and I sort of try and rotate it because, there's some women I've been trying to get on the podcast for quite a few years, but due to things like adventures, me traveling, them traveling, people having families or illness, sometimes they do get delayed. But please do send me your names of women who are doing amazing challenges. I think I'm looped in, but even sometimes I'm literally like, how did I not know about this? So please do let me know if there's a woman that you know who's taking on an epic challenge and you think she's got a great story to share and you'd love to hear more about it. Ping me over their names. I'll add them to my waiting list and I will get them on at some point. So I am committed. I do roughly about 70 odd episodes a year, one per week. I'm trying to average about 6 episodes per month, every Tuesday, with bonus episodes coming on a Thursday. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love for you to tell one friend about the Tough Girl podcast. And if you haven't done so already, I'd love for you to leave a 5-star. God, I'm so demanding. Leave a review, tell a friend, become a patron, take a selfie, tag me in it. OMG. But no, hand on heart, thank you so much. I really do appreciate everything you're doing. And enough waffle from me. And all that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all. Give it 110%. Get after it. Go for it. Believe in yourself, because I believe in you. Take care. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.